Welcome to day 46 of our GCSE 5-a-day questions. And we start with a question that requires us to understand our place value. And I'm sure you're all happy with the fact that this is the ones column, the tens column, the hundreds column. We need to be aware that this is the tenths column. Each of these columns, as we go from left to right, is 10 times smaller. And that goes on and on and on. So we're starting here with a 6 in our tens column. So our answer is 6 tenths. Oh, but no, we need this in its simplest form. And in its simplest form, I'm looking, are there any common factors between 6 and 10? Well, yes, there are. I can divide both of them by 2. What I do to the top, I have to do to the bottom. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Are there any common factors between 3 and 5? No, there aren't. So there's my answer. Where should I go on Century to practice that? Well, if I need to be having a look at my decimal place value, which is really important, then go and look at Nugget 8.09. If I needed to go and practice my simplifying of fractions, then go to Nugget 4.04. Okay, well, this is a challenge. I'm going to do this two different ways for you. First of all, I'm going to do it using column multiplication. And you'll see that the first thing I've done is I've made sure I've left plenty of space between my columns, and I've made sure that my columns are very clear. And as I do my work, I'm going to make sure that I stick to my columns. So I'm going to start with my 2 here, and I'm then going to work across. So 2 times 6 is 12. So that's a 2. I've got to carry a 1 over to here. 2 times 2 is 4, plus this 1 is 5. 2 times 1 is 2. I'm now going to come to my 7. Now, this isn't 7, this is 70 because it's in the tens column. So I'm going to start with a 0. So I'm going to start in the tens column here. 7 sixes are 42. So that's 2 carrying a 4 to here. 7 twos are 14, plus 4 is 8. Carry 1 to here. 7 ones are 7, plus this 1 is 8. So I'm now going to add these up. 2 and 0 is 2, 5 and 2 is 7, 2 and 8 is 0, carrying 1 to here, 8 and 1 is 9. So my answer is 9,072. I'm now going to do this for you using grid multiplication. And in our grid, we partition our numbers. So my 126 becomes 126, and my 72 becomes 70 and 2. And this is so I just end up doing single digit multiplication. So for this cell here, 7 times 1 is 7, and I've got 3 zeros, 1, 2, 3. So I'm just going to add on those 3 zeros here. Here I've got 2 times 1 is 2, plus my 2 zeros. 2 times 7 is 14, and 2 zeros. 6 times 7 is 42, and 1 0. 6 times 2 is 12. Oh, I forgot one. 2 times 2 is 4, and a 0. We've now got quite a bit of adding up to do, so let's do our adding up. I'm going to add this column, then this column, and then add those two totals together. 0, 0 and 2 is 2. 0, 4 and 1 is 5. And the 2 there, 2, 5, 2. 0, 0, 0, 0, 2. 4 and 4 is 8. 7 and 1 is 8. And it's not coincidental that these two numbers here are the two numbers that we had there. Let's just add those up, though. Make sure that we've not made a mistake. 0 and 2 is 2, 2 and 5 is 7, 2 and 8 is 0, and 1, 9. Good. So both ways round, I came up with the answer 9,072. If you want to practice the column method, and please only really practice one of these methods, don't try and do both. 3.07 for the column multiplication and 3.08 for the grid multiplication. Okay, now we're gonna struggle here if we don't know what multiples are. Well, multiples are as in the times table. So the multiples of 12 are counting in 12s: 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, 72, 84, and so on. Counting in 20s: 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, and so on. Now, a common multiple means one that we find in both lists. And we can see that 60 appears in both lists. It's also the lowest common multiple because we started at 12 and we started at 20. So there's no number smaller than 60 that appears in both. Now, to practice doing that, using that listing strategy, the nugget is 5.07. Okay, well, following on from question 1, we've got another exercise in decimal place value. So in question 1, we had that this column was 1/10. So following on, this one 100th and this one 1,000th, because at each step we are dividing by 10. So the fraction we've got here is 124, and the 4 is in the thousandths column. So my quick way to write this is 124 all in the thousandths column. So that is my fraction. I've got to put it in its simplest, or in this instance, the word that's been used is lowest form. So is there anything that goes into 124 and into 1,000? Well, I can see that 2 does. So I'm going to divide both of these by 2. I can see that 2 goes in again, and I can see that because they're both even numbers. I can see quite quickly that that is the correct answer because I know that 31 is prime. So does 31 go into 250? Well, the 250 ends in a 0, so 10 must go into it. Well, 10 31s are 310, which is bigger than 250. So I'm sure that that is my simplest form. As in question 1, if we need to work on our decimal place value, then 4.04 is the nugget we need to go and work on. If it's simplifying of fractions, then 8.09. And I guess questions 1 and 4 are showing you that we can be using the same mathematical techniques, but question 4 is clearly quite a bit harder than question 1 because it requires a deeper understanding and more fluent skills. Hence why we practice these exercises both on Century and with our 5 a day. Okay, we've had a few of these questions in our 5 a day exercises, and the way to understand these is to look at our number line because we're in the nearest £10. So you'll see that I've done a number line going up in £10. We're after something that is 250 to the nearest £10. Well, we can see physically that numbers sort of here are clearly nearest to 250. Well, what we're asked is what is the smallest amount she could have? So that's really a question of how far do we have to go along this number line before we stop being nearest 250 and we end up instead being nearest to 240? Well, that's clearly halfway along, isn't it? So halfway along is 245. And the same applies the other side as well, doesn't it? That once we get to 255 and beyond, we're then nearest 260. So it's everywhere in this range between 245 and 255 ends up being nearest 250. So we're asked for the smallest amount, and the smallest amount is 245. Not forgetting our units, £245. And the nugget to go and practice there, 9.15. And if you do practice that nugget, I think it will help you in your understanding of rounding as well. If you've got any questions on today's 5 a day, then please don't hesitate to get in touch with your maths teacher right away.